So I was at a party or a gathering the other night, and I want to share the epiphany that I had or that I continue to have when I meet specifically certain people that remind me of who I was before I decided to take this journey of living in surrender, living from the end state. So I was talking to this girl, and she was basically saying how she wanted to move to Paris and how you know, her current situation is like she just has always been drawn to Paris, very familiar. She's like, she came for 2 months and she thought it was going to be magical and all these doors were going to open. And it was magical until by the end of her stay, nothing really transpired in terms of she didn't get a job or some sort of lead into how she's going to stay here, like how she can live here permanently. So she moves back to where she was feeling defeated, right? And she's like, I don't understand. I read all of these law of attraction and la la la, and everybody else seems to be able to manifest. Why doesn't it work for me? And so I was like, listen, I totally, completely understand everything that you're saying because I was there. I was you, like completely. I want to share something because I don't know if I've shared it before, which is that when I actually moved to Paris, this was 3 years ago, March 1st, 2022, March, April, May, June. So 3 months into moving here, I had this epiphany, which was, I don't even remember the exact day, but I remember the moment that it hit me where I didn't want to do all the things that I was doing my whole life in order to receive wealth, abundance, etc., success, right? At that point, I had just moved here. I had pivoted my business. I was solely focusing on being a fearless coach and a soul guide. I let go so much of the yoga career because I wanted to. I was tired. I felt like I have so much more I want to offer. And part of me moving here, being able to move here, was that everything turned virtual. Hence, I got this visa where I was able to live and work here in Paris. So 3 months in, there was this feeling of like a crushing feeling almost like, "Ugh, I don't want to have to do that hustle, that dance where I have to do a bunch of posts and da 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 and to receive all these new clients." Because, the mind was like, how are you going to afford your apartment? How are you going to afford how you're living if you don't have a plan? Right? That was the mind, what she was saying. And I was like, I just don't want to do any of the things that I've done before. I know there's an easier way. I've experienced so many beautiful synchronicities and opportunities that just landed in my lap without me having to do anything. So why can't I just live that way? So as I'm having this moment of realization, epiphany that I don't want to do what I've done in the past to receive wealth, abundance, etc., I start listening to this podcast. This podcast was this woman, I'll shout her out. Catherine Zakina, I think is her name. She has a very successful business called Manifestation Babe. I was listening to her podcast and she talked about doing this experiment where for 1 year, she was going to practice living as if all her prayers were answered. And at the time, she was living with her grandmother. She was sleeping on her grandmother's couch. She was in her early 20s. So this is the time that people we become more experimental when we're really young, because it's sort of that saying young and dumb, right? You don't know any better and you figure I've got nothing to lose, right? When you're in your 40s, there's a lot more mentally, or this is what the identity says, to lose if things like this don't work. But I was listening to her podcast, and lo and behold, I started to really vibe with this idea. It felt new, it felt fresh, it felt like something I had never tried before, which was living from the state of already being my most successful, abundant self. I've never actually done that before. I'm a fearless person. I love to experiment with life. What if I tried it for 1 year, like she said, right? And what was interesting is that lit me up. So I'm saying this for a couple of reasons. Number one, you got to own when you are frustrated. You got to own when you're frustrated, when you're feeling stuck. You got to listen to that voice, right? It's all working for you. Number two, I discovered it was not about me doing anything more out there in the 3D world. It was something within me that had to shift, right? So that's another distinction. I recognized it was no longer about, because here I am in Paris, and yet I'm still feeling the same way, right? It's like that saying, no matter where you go, there you are. So owning exactly the frustration and that feeling of stuckness, recognizing the familiar feeling, the emotional state that you're in, which is like, oh, dread, I don't want to do this thing, right? And then also recognizing that moment of truth when it hit me, huh, I've never tried this experiment she's talking about, but I know how the universe works. And I recognize that sometimes things just kind of come together without me having to do anything. So maybe there is something to shifting from the end state and what will transpire. What have I got to lose? Nothing. I've got this literally, if I spend another year here in this state, I'll just be exactly where I am, which is like, I already know what that is. I already know what that feels like. Let me try this other new experiment, right? This sounds fun. This sounds exciting. Yes. And this is so important because when you declare with certainty, right, your whole body, it's like I felt it in my body, in my bones. Yes. It just felt exciting. It felt like something different and new, and I can get behind it. It's important that you listen. Right? So I'm like, I can do this. So I remember thinking, okay, I have to do something every day that's going to get me in this end state. Now, let me just back up for a moment and I'll talk about the girl and how it was literally like a mirror to me, my past version. But let me back up for a moment. There were a couple of things that I really that I really wanted. My distinction was not just about, I'm going to live from this end state, and it was about me being the most successful and having the most money. It wasn't quite like that. And this is where I'm glad I took this journey later in life, because I recognized that it wasn't money that I was really asking for. Okay. What I discovered, I was asking for the kind of wealth and success that, let me put it bluntly, I was watching Dr. Joe Dispenza. I'm a huge fan. I do his meditations. I read all his books. He was talking about how he was asking his friend who was super successful, billionaire guy, hey, how's it going today? And he's like, oh, I lost everything. He's like, you lost everything? He's like, yeah, but it's okay. I'll get it back. I said, that's what I want. That right there. That feeling of, even if it all went away, I can attract it all back because I know internally my inner state, my consciousness is so dialed in to abundance that it doesn't even matter. That's what I wanted, that sense of confidence and security within. Okay. So it wasn't just a superficial, I want $10,000 months, and then building to $100,000. No, I wanted that level of knowing and security that even if it went away, it would come right back because I was the attractor. I was the magnet, not the other way around, right? The other distinction I want to say is I recognize also I wanted the kind of wealth and success where I wouldn't fear somebody else was going to take it from me, because I grew up, like probably many of you, where I remember my father saying, oh, he's just using me for this money, or, they're going to try to take it from me. This idea that people are only interested in using you for what you have, blah, blah, blah. I just didn't want any of that bullshit. So I'm like, I don't want to fear that somebody's going to take it from me. Right. So again, secure. The third thing, and this is a big one, I didn't want to feel guilty for spending it however I wanted, because I saw in the past growing up that my family, friends, everybody judges each other for how they spend their money. Like, I can't believe they spent all that money getting reconstruction, or facelifts, or I don't know, whatever. I didn't want that kind of guilt. I wanted to be able to spend freely, give, do whatever. I wanted that freedom within, right? So these are four big, big, big distinctions versus the superficial, I just want $1 million and I want a beautiful apartment and a husband. And that's fine. You are where you are, but this is where I was. in my 40s, my late 40s, when I first moved to Paris. So, getting back to that girl, she's telling me this, and I'm going to read this in a moment. She's telling me this, and I'm like, listen, I totally get it. I was there exactly where you are. But you have to understand, first of all, this idea that it's not working is false. Your desire, your pure desire, it's always working. It's never not working. Your soul and the universe are conspiring in this very moment, orchestrating all of the cooperative components to yield to you exactly what you want. However, your soul came here for the adventure, for the journey, for the evolvement of who your highest potential is. So it knows your highest potential and it knows what you want and it knows what path to give you. So you, the small you, which says it's not working, isn't thinking from the higher state, which is that it's always working. And this contrast, which is saying it's not working, is what needs to change. You don't want to be the same person that you are now when you move to Paris. You don't. You don't want the same life. That is why you cast this desire for moving to Paris. We don't realize it, but we're not asking, I want to be the same person. I just want to be in Paris. No, like, you think being in Paris is going to make you different, which half true, right? You think it's going to make you different, but nothing external really does because you always shrink back to the version of who you are that is most practiced and most comfortable and most safe. So you are asking to change by casting that desire, by taking the leap and staying here for 2 months. You are asking your soul to change. You want to evolve into your highest potential. So her eyes kind of lit up. Like I can see this was kind of resonating, right? So we don't realize, I certainly didn't, that it's always working. The universe is never working against us. It's just showing us what beliefs have to change, what consciousness, right? Our subconscious needs to change in order for us to line up with the exact thing that we desire to literally so we can hold it. Because how many times has this happened where you've had beautiful opportunities come to you and then they just leave as soon as they come and you're like, I don't understand. I thought that everything was cool. And it's like, it's showing you this can happen so easily and so frequent and so effortlessly. However, there's still something within you that needs to shift in order to lock it in. You're like, oh, wait. So I want to read you something because this is a really good book by Neville Goddard. I don't know if you've heard of him. He really coined this whole law of assumption where you assume the end state always, right? And then you kind of use your external circumstances to move through all the contrast to what Joe Dispenza calls, or Dr. Joe calls, like overcoming the past self. You just keep overcoming your past self. So when you meet that resistance, which it's going to come in all kinds of shapes and sizes and forms, right? When you meet it, if your go-to response is, oh, doesn't work for me, works for everyone else, doesn't work for me, you know you're in the program, because the program is to get you to stop pursuing your evolvement, your growth, your journey, right? It's to stop you from changing. Because remember, to change is so threatening for your identity. It is so threatening. It doesn't want to do it. So when you receive that resistance, it's like to get you to stop. But when you notice and you're like, oh, here's that voice again, I'm going to keep going. I'm overcoming that voice. I believe this is here for me, and I'm going to keep showing up. You will get another test, another initiation to move through it again and again and again until it is hardwired, until you create a new version of you, which then your desire comes to you, and then you can say, do I even want this? Because sometimes we evolve so much that the thing that we once wanted that kicked us into that initial initiation or journey, we go, I don't think I want that anymore. right? Because things are really, really changing and moving, and said, okay, here we go. If you are dissatisfied with your present expression of life, then you must be born again. Rebirth is the dropping of that level with which you are dissatisfied and rising to the level of consciousness which you desire to express and possess. You cannot serve two masters or opposing states of consciousness at the same time. So, taking your attention from one state and placing it upon the other, you die to the one from which you have taken it, and you live and express the one with which you are united. So, basically, it's saying you can't have this desire, live from the end state. I'm already, let's say, use for example, living in Paris, thriving, successful, have this great job, la la la, and then also be in a state of, but why can't I find a job? Why isn't this working? Why does she get this? And you can't do both. That is just going to keep you stagnant, right? So coming back full circle to this idea of when I had that desire to live from the end state, this was almost, was it June? I can't remember. I think it was 3 years ago. Um, Sorry, I tend to get some hot flashes. Anyways, so when that was 3 years ago, I could have never in a million years predicted this journey that I'm on. But let me just tell you, I am so grateful that I said yes to it, because I can't even begin to tell you. And you can just look back on some of my videos, the amount of expansion, the amount of growth, the amount of knowing it's all within me. I mean, I freaking healed myself of eczema. I showed up when I came back to Paris from a month of being away in the States. I showed up here without any reservations. I didn't know where I was going to sleep, where I was going to stay, because here's the reason. Because when I first let go of my apartment and I came back to Paris, and I also didn't make a plan. Part of this journey is about not inserting what I would do in the past into this present moment just to get more of the past. Part of it is like letting go, staying in the unknown long enough so that I can push back the resistance. So, what is the resistance? It's fear. I thought a year ago I would be in the unknown so that the universe would yield to me some sort of magical synchronicity, beautiful, wonderful manifestation that I could have never done myself. Sometimes that works, but I knew differently this time. I knew that it was about me shifting, that it was about me discovering what part of my consciousness is still stuck on this idea that I have to do something out there to feel safe, secure, loved, whatever, right? And so I was like, what would happen if I just show up exactly like I did over a year ago, knowing all that I know, living through all that I've lived? How would I feel differently? And I will say, a few days before I left, I did have I had like bad dreams, because again, the mind is like trying to get me to get scared. Even though I was like, I'm okay. Like, I know I have a storage unit. I can go directly to my storage unit. I could figure it out. I was just like, let's just be present with all of it. And I even wrote on the plane ride from New York, I I wrote this: make it about the inner journey, how I move through this internally, not wanting anything outside of me to change, but to change, transform, and become free. So I knew it wasn't about, oh, when I land, some, amazing pet sitting opportunity is going to show up, even though I was like, the mind was trying to hook onto that. I was like, just be present and see what shows up internally, and then see how you can traverse it, see how you can return back to this new state of being, which is that I'm always, always taken care of. I always have a safe place to land. So that's what I did. And it was so beautiful. I ended up going to a hostel. I was like, for me, the most important thing was location, because I landed on the same day as a big transit strike. So it was location. I wanted to be able to walk to it from where I was, where my storage unit was. And number two, price. And number three, clean and safe, right? So I'm like, let me go check out this place. It got some good reviews. I walk in, done. I knew it within 2 seconds. I'm really, really good at just knowing when something is right energetically. Booked it, slept there, woke up, showered, and I was like, I'm not even going to think about it. It's all going to work out. And then boom, I got this beautiful sublet. And it was great because it really did confirm and validate something within me, which is like, it really is an inner journey. And you keep doing it and you keep doing it and you keep doing it. You shift your consciousness, you shift your state of being, and then you will see all of that being expressed, just like a big mirror outside of you. So, voila. Comment below if this resonated. I also want to now start ending every single video with this. Experience is our greatest teacher. We came here for the journey. So experiment with your life. Be fearless. Voila!